Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. It's Tuesday. Welcome to an episode of Destination Unbound podcast. It's like a podcast, blogcast type of vibe, and I'm Faye. Hello. I'm here at home, so if you hear people walking around, going about, I'm in a common area, so you're gonna hear things because people live here. People do things. Hopefully the audio is cool. I don't know. I don't really know. Won't know till later. Oh, I need to double up this audio. But yeah. I'm gonna turn my other mic as a backup. I'm using my microphone here. Microphone checkup. So yeah. So today I really wanted to talk about something that a realization, a reflection that I had and made yesterday. Okay. I have my other mic on. I don't know how much it'll pick up, but we will see. Actually, let me bring it in a little closer. Because I have the video component, obviously, and then I have the podcast component. Like there's a video and audio element. Anyway, so what I wanted to talk about today was I had this realization that okay, let me just kind of run it through. I'm always best with storytelling, so I'm going to storytell. So yesterday I was in the living room as I was thinking about, as I'm coming up against another precipice, another idea for me to start a business. And if this may be the first time you've heard of me or learned of me, I'm an artist, I'm a filmmaker, digital artist. I kind of just lend myself to whatever I feel called to express. So writing, moving image, photography, videography. Like those are like kind of the realm that I'm in, but I don't like to pigeonhole myself. So I'm an artist through and through, which is an identity that I'm coming into now. But let me not get ahead of myself. So I was here yesterday in this living room, in this very chair that you see if you're watching from YouTube, and I want to open up a shop. I want to open up a shop for prints. I want to put some of my digital art on possibly items like journals. Like I love journaling. Journaling has literally saved my life. Like I have my journal here with my notes in it and like tabs. Like journaling has literally saved my life. It's cleared up my mind. It's allowed me to root deeper in my spirituality. It's helped my practice. It's helped my expression. And I was just thinking about, creating journals with my art on the cover or like live journaling groups. So I was just thinking about different ways that I can do things that I enjoy, do things that I love, and cultivate community. And so I'm thinking about all these things, and this is how it always starts. I have this really great idea, I'm excited about it, and I do all the things that I'm supposed to do. Market research, target audience, where do the people find your work? How do people find you? Like, I do this all the time, and I've done this since 2015. Like, I was the quintessential quit my job, start a business. So in 2015, I quit my job. I was a receptionist at a wellness center in Upper East Side in the city. And I was working at this wellness center. And they're really encouraging, they're really kind. And I had this idea, I had this vision that was sitting on my spirit for months. And I was like, you know what? I have to do it. For months, I kept seeing this one word come to me. And at the time, I didn't really understand what it meant, but the word was vessel. And at the time, like I said, I didn't really understand what that meant. But as I've gotten older, the word vessel has come to me in so many ways. And being an artist is truly being a vessel for like divine inspiration. And I believe that without a doubt. And so I had this idea to put this word on a shirt, and I did. And I started a business. It was called Retro Resonance. Like I quit my job. I had $100 to my name. I showed people every part of the journey. I made the shirts myself. Like I sourced the shirts. I made my own website. I cut the vinyl, designed the graphics and the logos, and designed everything from top to bottom, my, the washing instructions that you would get in the package. I went and sourced the bags and boxes so that I could send it to people. Like, this was like 2015, before really people were telling you how to start t-shirt businesses and things like that. Those resources were there on YouTube, but like not really. And I learned how to start a business from top to bottom on my own, by myself, essentially. And I had such a great time. And social media, it was just so easy for me to share my journey, because I learned that like it's important for you to share your journey. And so I would show people me going to the t-shirt shop, pressing the shirts. Like, I was pressing the shirts by hand, I was cutting the vinyl, showing people like up close shots of like the machinery, me going to source the materials, me putting orders together. I got asked to vend at a wellness like show, like, so just showing people every step of the way. And I think it was about maybe a month or 2 months that took. I don't know how long it took for me to just kind of that was me just showing the process. It probably took me 3-4 months altogether to like learn everything and be so intentional in the wording on the website. Like, this is before ChatGPT. This is before people are telling you how and what to put on your website. So all I had was intention and vision. And I'm looking back in this moment, I'm so proud of myself. And so I just really showed the journey. And I feel like that really paid off, because within my first week of launching my t-shirt business, somebody reached out to me to ask me to wholesale in their shop. It was like this like dope ass like shop in Brooklyn. It's like a spiritual store. It was called Rituals and Ceremony. It's no longer there. It was close to Eastern Parkway. And the owner reached out, Sarah. She's been amazing. I've kept in touch here and there throughout the years. Her name is Sarah. And yeah, she was so kind. Like, she asked me to wholesale her shop. And it didn't work out, because I ended up saying no, because I didn't think that I had enough. I didn't have enough money to be able to fulfill a wholesale order, because I didn't fully understand what it mean by it takes money to make money. And I didn't know that I needed money to mess up and fuck up and find out what goes wrong in a business. And I didn't counter that. So a lot of my money went into just having to buy things and test them out and see how it went. And I didn't realize that at all. And so I ended up saying no. And I also believe it's a little bit of lack of confidence, but that was where I started in 2015, 2016. I also started a production company at that time. I was like producing a web series. I produced a web series called Social, which you can still find out about. I'll probably share all the information to all these spaces if you would like to check out my work and the things that I've done. But at this point, I feel like I'm an artist entrepreneur. Like, my art is entrepreneurship and starting businesses. I feel like at this point, entrepreneurship. And so I've just literally always been committed to taking back my own time, my own power, and making my own money, making my own way through life, because I've known for over a decade that is probably the best path for me. But I think between a mixture of like lack of knowledge or lack of funding or lack of resources or the way social media has changed, and just not me embracing who I am, hasn't fully allowed me to be successful in all the ways that I've wanted to. Like, I've been able to start businesses and have great ideas and build things out from top to bottom. I can do that, but I haven't been able to sustain. And I think that was what I was thinking about yesterday. I was just like, why have I not been able to sustain? Like, I've started several things because I'm so deeply committed to my own path, my own journey. And I believe being an entrepreneur is like a sure, it's 111. It's like a surefire, like a sure way for that. Like, being able to take back your own time and dictate your day, I think is probably not think like, I know that is the best life for me. And so I've been committed to figuring out to getting to that place. And so as I was sitting here thinking about, okay, like kind of releasing my designs, because I don't know, somewhere along the way I just stopped sharing my designs. Like, I don't know. I didn't believe in them, or I didn't think they were good enough, or like, I think I was really hurt by the t-shirt experience not being what I thought it would be, but it was my first business. And oftentimes your first business, some people say that they don't work out. And it worked out as now I have that wisdom and knowledge. But I was just ready to just be like, I am fully in charge of making my own money, taking my own energy and transmuting it into my own resourcing and nourishment for my life. And I can live my life exactly the way I want to. Because that's the one thing stopping me from living my life the way I want to is the means, mostly the money. I have the mindset, I have the energy about it, but it's just really that last portion that I'm just like still, I won't say I'm still getting there, but I'm in a place where I'm like, okay, let's get this last part on, on lock. So, so yeah, as I was reflecting on my journey as entrepreneurship, like I said, I've started several businesses since then. Haven't been sustainable, haven't, been able to fully sustain and live off of them in the ways that I would like to. So I've been Reiki businesses, jewelry businesses, so it's been several things over the last few years. And I had to sit with myself and think about that. Like, what is that? And I realized that I have been approaching things differently. I realized that so I introduced myself to you as an artist, but I don't refer to myself as an artist. I don't always call myself an artist. I don't always embody the energy of an artist. I've always known that I'm an artist or creative, but I've always kind of had like imposter syndrome, as people say. Like, it's not an identity that I rooted myself in, that I didn't fully believe until recently, within the last year. And then yesterday it hit me that I'm like, you're an artist. And I feel like I've been being an entrepreneur and not an artist for so many reasons. I think there's like, for so many reasons. And also, I'd like to say they aren't mutually exclusive. But before I get into that, I want to say, yeah, so I spent so much time market research, target audience, where to show up, social media strategy, social media campaign, operations, systems, emails, and all those things are important because you still do need business development. And I do at least have at least over a decade worth of business development wisdom. So it's not a complete loss of the things that I've learned over the past few years. Like, you need strategy. Just being a creative is not enough. You still need a plan. You still, at the very least, need intention. You need vision, intention, and like aligned action. At the very least, three. Because all vision and all passion and no action still doesn't get you to the places that you need to go. And so, sorry, I've been looking at myself. Sorry, I've looked at the camera. And so I realized, I was like, dang, like, I've been looking at this all wrong. And all of this really came about because I'm in this place in my life where I've decided that pleasure is a requirement for me. Like, pleasure is quite literally the biggest motivator. Like, there is so many things that I will do for pleasure. And how much pleasure is just something I require. And for some people, that could be a neurodivergent thing. Some people have ADHD, so some people need that dopamine to get things moving, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think what was wrong was me shaming myself or doubting myself or not willing to accept that about myself for the sake of being judged, because I feel like there's this weird connotation around pleasure that A, it's always associated with something sexual, and B, that there's no room for it, or C, like it's just like this like vague like sexual thing. And for me, pleasure can mean so many things. I think there's pleasure on so many different levels of who I am. I think pleasure could be a body experience, emotional experience, a mental thing, a physical thing. I think you could have pleasure in your work, pleasure in your play, pleasure in your art, pleasure in your sex life, your love life, pleasure in your, you know, I was gonna say civilian, not civilian, your platonic relationships. Pleasure to me is not equated to sex, which is so interesting to say in a world that shames us for sex, but sex is like so like the underpinnings of so many things. It's just so strange, the culture of sex that we have here in America, that it's like so oddly in our faces within like media or like celebrity culture or how things are sold. But like there's like a shame that we don't talk about, and it's not something that's explored, or we only have one idea of what one person's pleasure looks like. And that's what happens when one person is manufacturing the society we live in. Like, that is what happens. And so there's only one understanding of what pleasure looks like, and a lot of the times it is connected to shame. And so I've never wanted to embrace how much I appreciate pleasure, how much I enjoy pleasure, because I didn't want to be misunderstood. And so I've just been redefining what pleasure looks like for me. And I was just like, wow, I have so much pleasure in just creating and allowing myself to just be inspired and lend myself to the creative process. Because I know that, I get that, I understand that. Like, I know that intimately, the creative process. Like, I know how to get my senses going. I know how to set the mood for that. And that does sound like, and that I will say, although that's not sexual, that is a really erotic experience. But creation, whether you're creating art or having sex to make a baby, is still creation. So of course, my creative process sounds erotic because like it's literally all the same energy for the same result. It's like this process, it's this desire, it's a process, and it's like a result. And at the end, it's either a product or a baby. So I find the creative process and birthing process to be really similar, and those avenues can lead to erotic spaces. And unfortunately, that's not always the case. But yeah, so I just really was just like, you know what? I require pleasure in my life. And I have to embrace that because I will continue to be heartbroken if I don't embrace that about myself. That's literally me looking at myself in the face and saying no to myself. And I'm like, maybe the success I'm looking for happens on the other side of me accepting that. And there's nothing more pleasurable to me than creating and sharing and just being myself and being a person. And so that relates back to being an artist, not an entrepreneur, is because pleasure for me is going at my own pace, taking my own time, easing into things, honoring the flow of how things come about, how things happen, genuine interactions, listening. You know, pleasure for me is really lending myself over to spirit and flow and ease in life as it has to happen as much as possible, which goes against kind of what we've been conditioned of just like you need to plan, you need to go, you have to, life for me is not purely logical. Life for me is largely spiritual and in the unseen, and that's something I have to embrace about myself, and that is pleasurable to me. It is pleasurable to live in that existence. And so and I was just like, in my art, first of all, it felt pleasurable to claim myself as an artist. And I was like, well, then in my, like, because it wasn't pleasurable to, after 10 years, keep coming back to the same place of having a good idea, doing the branding, doing the marketing, doing the websites, and then not doing anything with it because I realized that wasn't pleasurable to me. I realized I was being an entrepreneur, not an artist. I wasn't leaning into the creative process. I was leaning into a business process. I, instead of me living in a pleasure filled place of saying, like, I create art, I share my art, I share my journey, I share my process with people, and I engage in that way. Instead of it doing like that, I've been trying to think like an entrepreneur, or not an entrepreneur. I've been trying to think like a business owner, like a marketer in a different way, because you can be an artist and a business owner. So, but I was thinking of, there's like a distinction. There's like an artist entrepreneur, and then there's like a product entrepreneur. And I was thinking like a product entrepreneur. And your art can be a product that you sell, but I feel like to be an artist, you can't be completely logical about your creative process. Because for me, let me speak for myself. My creative process is very spiritual. There is some thought that goes into it, but it's largely spiritual. And so for me, I realized I was not leaning into the spiritual aspect. I wasn't leaning into the art of it. I was just trying to be like, well, what do people need? How do I was trying to peek into people's world and make something that is useful to people because that's what they tell you to do as a business. Like, people don't want things that aren't useful to them. And I've been trying to, I think, appease to people's sensibilities in a way that I didn't fully understand and that didn't ultimately serve me. And I was sitting there and I was like, I just wish I could create something and people can just connect and be magnetized by my emotion and effort and love and care that went into it, and I could just like organically share how I did this and like da da da. And I was like, oh shit, that's an artist. That's what artists do. Literally, people get on the internet all day and they paint something and they show themselves painting. They show the before and the afters, and I would literally scroll on these people's pages and profiles, and it's the same video, like same formula, them painting, and I'm like, wow, But that's the process, you know what I'm saying? Like, and people, you won't see their face, but you'll just see them drawing, and they'll have thousands and thousands of followers, and they'll have sales. And I'm like, I don't want to assume what goes into what they do, but like, they're just being an artist, and that in nature is useful to people. That speaks to people's sensibilities. Instead of me trying to peek into somebody else's world, what if I stayed in my own world, created and cultivated what I desired, and allow people to peek in, and that gives an invitation to allow me to ask them, does this connect with you? Does this resonate with you? Like, I'm trying to go into other people's world. I don't have the resources to be doing, what's the in market research, what they call like group discussions and like polling. How am I going to poll people who aren't there? How am I going to get data from people who aren't there? Customers and clients. It was like, so I don't need customers. I need community and patrons. Like, and they are kind of virtually the same, but slightly different. Like, when I think client, I think corporation, I think of bigger business, I think of product. When I think of patrons, I think of people who truly invest in your art. They understand what it means to be an artist. They will buy your product, but they also invest in your livelihood and want to make sure that you are well and you are okay. And there's a community around it. And I do believe customers and clients can do that too. But I'm just really understanding what patrons mean. Really quickly, I was watching this. Actually, I might even go off a tangent, but yeah, like, I don't need customers and clients. I don't need to figure out what people want or need when I am literally a resource. I'm literally a vessel. I'm literally a vessel full of divine wisdom and inspiration and vision that I can cultivate if I spend that time with myself. And then instead of me exerting all this energy to figure out things about other people, I can invest that energy in myself. I can then take my time back, my power back, and then feel called to do social media. Because imagine trying to figure out all that stuff about strangers and people you don't know, and this may not actually even be helpful to them, and you think you figured it out, and you do all this stuff, and you're still not getting the things that you need. And I'm like, well, what if I just focus on what I do know, what I do have, and that's me? And that's when I realized, I was like, I am an artist. I'm not an entrepreneur. And that just like shifted something in me. That truly shifted something in me yesterday, and I'm just like, and now we move. um, so I just thought that was really cool. But like I said, and I think I do want to another time talk about how obviously I consider art and like business development kind of like the spirit and the mind. Art is the spirit, and like, business development is the mind, because I do think there is strategy that is required to be a business owner. Because if you're an artist and you're selling prints, you have to have the website, you have to have the communications together. Like, there is still business development. And although my businesses haven't sustained me in the ways that I thought or like, I now have so much business development wisdom, and I feel so mature. Like, I feel so grown, because I was so excited, I was so elated. Like, I was like, oh my god, I've just been looking at this all the wrong way, and I felt so good. I felt so elated, and I was so like uplifted by it, and I was just so happy and so proud. Which is very pleasurable for me. I love new ideas. I love creativity. I love inspiration. That's my favorite part of the process. So I was like, I was living off that high for a few hours, and then I just was like sitting with myself, and I was like, but hold up, what have the last 10 years taught me? The last 10 years taught me that I think I'm special. I know I'm special, but I'm not special. I'm not special. I'm going to have to take aligned action. I'm going to still have to be intentional. I'm going to still have to be strategic. I'm going to have that harmony and that balance. Like, how much is this going to be vision and passion, and how much of this is going to be like a plan, intention, and strategy? I was like, if I know anything besides those things, I know that I'm going to need community. Like, so much of the work that I've done has been because of community and other people. People saying your name in spaces that you aren't in yet. People saying, oh, I know this person. Oh yeah, just do this. Like, sometimes you need people to do that for you. So if I know anything, we're going to have to build community. I'm going to have to connect with people. Do I want to say that? So, I mean, largely, this, and I'm going to say this out loud. I don't often say these things because it's so new and tender and fresh. But yeah, that's what this podcast is for me to speak with other artists and just hear how they have been redefining being an artist or artistry. What rules are they breaking? What rules are they defining and establishing for themselves that they choose to live by? Yeah, that's what this podcast is for. And so podcast, blogcast kind of thing is for. So we have to build community. So I get to build community through that and get to learn about new artists, meet new people, get to platform their art, just get an understanding of who they are and how they're moving through the world, and it can further inspire me and inspire others. I wrote notes. Yeah, so I think if I learned anything, I think I'm gonna do a separate video about like what I've learned over the last 10 years and how it's going to support me in being an artist and what I intend to do about it. But those were kind of like the two things I think make sense for me to say and share today. But yeah, if I learned anything over the last 10 years is that I'm gonna need a plan still. My passion and my vision is not enough. I'm still gonna need sustainability. Yeah, because vision and passion doesn't pay the bills. And a couple of years ago, that would have irritated me. And I'm like, but why not? Some people can, but also I think it's also a very personal journey. From what I've gathered, from what I've understood, I'm going to need stability. I'm going to need a plan. I'm still, the most important thing, one of the most important things is I have to understand that it's still going to take time. I have this great idea. I see the vision. I see the end goal. But your visions don't tell you how long they take. They don't tell you about your good days or your bad days. They don't tell you about the thing not working out and then it being exactly what you need it to be. So, yeah. So your visions don't often tell you that. So I have to remind myself off of that wisdom I have. And I'm just so grateful that I have that wisdom. But yeah, so those are just a few things that I've learned. And so now I'm just stepping into my artistry in a whole new way and just stop overthinking. But so as I was reflecting on this, as I was like writing notes about this podcast, I also pulled like a card for myself, and I don't know if I have it. I don't know if I brought it with me. I pulled an affirmation card. I'll probably share it at the end. I don't know. I can't find it. I didn't bring it with me. First of all, I'm thirsty, so. Oh yeah. I don't know where my card is. I don't want to move too much stuff because that was a juice box. That noise for anybody who's listening but not watching the replay of this live on my YouTube, which you can find all the information where to find me below. But basically, the affirmation card that I pulled for myself this morning was speaking to the fact that I am full of limitless love, joy, and wisdom from the universe. And I just really, and it was a bright yellow card, which was really cool because I've just been working with the color yellow lately just for confidence and just encouragement. The color yellow is associated with, I'm always hesitant to share these things because I'm very particular about saying certain things because like I'm doing my best with my spirituality and trying not to like piecemeal my spirituality, but it's also just like you have access to what you have access to, and you feel called to what you feel called to until you have new knowledge to do it differently. But I've been working on my self-belief and my foundation of belief, and that's connected to your solar chakra. And that's the color yellow. And so it was a nice, bright, vibrant yellow card. And it was just reminding me how limitless I am and that how much wisdom I have. And I'm just so proud of the wisdom that I have over the last 10 years, despite things not working out exactly as I thought they would, but supporting me fully in this place. And I've created, I think if anything, the last 10 years, I'm seeing like soil in my head. Like the last 10 years have created like really fertile ground. And it's making me really emotional, but like the last 10 years have created fertile ground. Like, when you look at soil, it has like all those clay and the rocks in it, and things that were rocks and that were boulders and was an obstacle for me or made me feel like I fucked up or I failed, has now created for fertile soil for me to like plant this new part of my artistry from. And every time I think about planting something, I always feel like it's a plot of land. But now I feel like I can see my garden of my work. And I'm really excited for this new plot of soil that's been prepped. I feel prepped and prepared and lush in this. And that's what that card reminded me of. And so I just asked myself, I was like, what if I really believed in how limitless I am, how limitless source is, and like fully moved from that knowing and that knowledge and that belief? Because that's all this stuff is. That's what all reality is. You moving from belief. Like, what if I truly like embodied and believed and moved from the understanding that I am connected to a truly limitless source, limitless inspiration, creativity, abundance, resources, opportunities, connections, things I can't even imagine. Like, what if I really leaned into that knowing? Like, how would that allow me to move into the world? And it scares me and it makes me afraid because it challenges my idea of control. And then once I move through that, like, because I'm gonna sit with that and move through that. But that's like that, like, oh, that comes up. But I know once I move through that, it's like, what do I have to lose? You know, what do I have to lose? So I really appreciate y'all for coming through and just hanging with me today for episode Destination Unbound. And I had a really great time. So I hope there is something that you learned. If there's something you learned, I'd love to know in the comments below, or if there's any questions or anything that you thought resonated with you, or any thoughts that came up for you as you were listening today. I'd love to know. Truly, I'd love to hear about your journey as an artist or being an entrepreneur, and like, what you've kind of moved through and navigated in that. And other than that, I have nothing else to say. I have nothing else to share. I hope you are well and blessed wherever you are. For those who are watching now, hello. Those in the future watching this replay, also hello. Thank you for witnessing the beginning. So I appreciate y'all so much. Bye.